Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Adam Steele for Hot Pole Studios, and today, as you might be able to see, I am back at my home base. I am in Studio B, and I will be... Let's move that around a little. I will be doing some mixing on stream. I'm using a new microphone today. I'm using the Lewitt 440 Pure, and I'm interested to see what you think of the sound. I've been using it now for a few days and I'm going to be making a video about it, but that's not the focus of today's video. The focus of today's video is 3 songs. Ooh, this lens makes me look like a teenager again. That's what. I will be finishing off 3 mixes for the band Mischwald, and also showing you, more importantly, the changes I've made to the previous song that we mixed for Mischwald, because I've been playing with some new plugins. So we'll get to talking about that just as soon as I roll the intro. There we go. So, evening everybody. I have been talking to the guys on the Discord for the past several days, and this is the previous song that we mixed, Punk Rock im Sommer by Mischwald, a German pop-punk band. And the last stream that we did, we looked at 3 new songs, which are here. And these new songs, we reamped all the guitars through using Kettner, Black Spirit 200, using the other Lewitt mic that I have, which is the DTP 640 Rex, and my Extinct Audio Ribbon microphone. And so the reamping was great, but the mixing itself wasn't actually done. So if I just play this back for you, I mean, it sounds reasonable, but it's just not there yet, but it shouldn't be. So, like I say, that's not a finished mix, and the aim tonight is... I don't like using the phrase copy and paste, but what I've been doing over the last few days off stream is I've been playing around with the first song from this. I don't know if it's going to be called an album or extended EP. I think they said it was 7 tracks. But I've been playing with some new plugins, and that's why I've been doing it off stream, is I've been getting used to these plugins, getting to know them, having a lot of little breaks and ABs and stuff that doesn't look very interesting on camera, and stuff where I just needed to really focus. But the results have been very positive, and so I have done a lot of things. I have got the Mix and Master monthly bundle from Plugin Alliance, which includes I've put this on every track. This is the SSL Brainworks Console 4000E. That is on literally every track on this song now. And as a result, some of the other processing I've removed and replaced with that, so the plugin count is a little bit lower, although there are still a lot of plugins on there, let's be honest. What else have I done? So the master chain is very different. So the whole master chain started again. So there's now the Shadow Hills Class A mastering compressor, which is really nice. There is the Bettermaker EQ, the 232D, which is very subtle passive EQ. I'm not even using the mid bands on this. I'm just using the Pultec style side. And then Brainworks Master Desk, which I always kind of wrote off, but I tried it this week and I'm very impressed. So the first thing that I'm going to do this particular week is I am going to play the entire mix back of Punk Rock im Sommer. I think when we left off this song last week before, it was mix 3, I think was the finished one. This is mix 10. So I've got myself a big old fashioned that's going to last me through the stream. Now let's have a listen through this song as it now stands. This is how it is after lots and lots of mix tweaks. And that's that. And that sounds really good to my ears, and I'm very happy with it. And so what we're going to be doing now seeing as though I've changed pretty much every parameter and every plugin, is we are going to use the old copy and paste buttons to copy a lot of these setup tracks from one project tab to the next, because I'm going to treat this, like I said the previous time, I'm going to treat this like we were producing an album all like in the same block period, analog style, where you would just have the same setup for the band all the time and only change what's necessary to change per song. So we are going to be changing things and using our ears to adjust per song if there's anything that stands out as needing changing per song, but that should be small changes, which means that we should keep the consistency sonically across all the songs, but at the same time not just let it balloon out of control if there's an element that doesn't work. We're not just going to blindly copy and paste, because that's the worst thing, is when you blindly copy paste. So what we're going to do, don't need that reference track, I'm going to hit save, because why not? And let's begin with the master processing, and I'm going to try and talk about things as I go through. And the master, I'll definitely be talking about again at the end. I can copy them and right click and paste effects. And now there we go. That's let's put those in there. And you might notice there are less plugins on the master than there were. So the Shadow Hills Class A mastering is amazing. It's actually two compressors in a row, and big iron or nickel or steel core transformers, and naturally, of course, Adam Steel. I've gone with the steel cores, although that was completely unintentional. I just listened for the one that suited the music the best, and it ended up being the steel core. Fine by me. But yeah, all the settings here are relatively slow attack, quite a fast recovery on the discrete compressor, and there are no settings on the optical compressor. It just is or it isn't. But if you look at this, let's just play this on one of the songs. This isn't going to sound right, but you might notice that these two VU meters are moving differently from each other. That's correct, and this threw me off originally. Shadow Hills, it seems, are very clever here, that they've got one of these I've set to be the optical compressor, showing me how much reduction the optical compressor's given me, and the other one showing me how much reduction the discrete compressor is giving me. So they don't necessarily have to move together. It's just interesting to watch them separately at how each one's characteristic behaves. So that is very subtle. And the Bettermaker, I'll just turn that on and off. That's more like it's a Pultec. So it just gives me a bit of a brighter top and a bit of a fuller low end without being overly in my face. Now this does seem to be struggling a little bit. Let's just see what's using most of the processing. Doesn't seem to be too bad. It could just be because we need to change out all the plugins ever. So the drums that are Superior Drummer, the first thing you'll see, this is the kit as it was. Sounds good, but this is the kit as it is now. Over there. So two of the toms are the same, but the kick, the snare, and the top tom have all changed. Once I got the mix right, I then decided to, just for fun, flick through some of the other drums. This is the Progressive Foundry in Superior 3. And this snare is a Noble and Cooley brass Zildjian snare that just had a bit more low-end weight without being overly thumpy. And the kick was a Ludwig. It was originally a Yamaha, and this one I felt just had more punch in the pop bump mix. And once I switched to the SSL channel strip on the toms, the top tom, which was I think it was the Ludwig. No, it was the DW collectors. Just didn't have the impact. Sounded too hollow, whereas the which one was it? It was the Yamaha. That one just had that fullness of the tone, which I like on toms, that do thing. And it wasn't loud enough, so I turned the level up on it a bit. And yeah, every track on the drums all goes through the BX, the Brainworks console. So I can fill a screen full of these, and it does start to look really dizzying after a while. But, oh, that one should be 2 channels. Huh. But yeah, they are modelled differently on each side, so that you get a very realistic mixing desk. Because if you've ever tried to model a single channel of something, you'll find there are slight dips in EQ, slight peaks. Times that by 70 or 100 over a mix, and that can really start to build up some resonances and dips. So what Brainworks have done, which is very clever, is they've modelled the component tolerances that you would get in a real desk, and they make it behave in such a way that there's subtle changes in EQ points and dips and resonances everywhere, which means that the tracks just kind of gel and glue better because they're not resonating in the same area. Very, very clever. So what I'm going to do is just copy all of this. The snare verb is now down to minus 19.3, note to self. And I'm just going to paste this. This is going to cause some problems for a minute, because this is going to use a lot of the memory. There we go. So I'm just going to delete the performance out of there. I'm just going to copy the snare reverb over, make sure it's minus 19.5, which is way lower than it was originally, but there's so much more clarity and attack now on the snare that it makes a lot more sense. And now I can delete that, and that should... The levels are going to be all over the show for a minute, so let's just wait for this. There we go. There we go. Let's just solo. Oh no, undo. Because what I need to do is move all the drum performance tracks into the right place before we delete it all. And that's what the undo button's for, kids. So I need that to go from here down to there. There we go. Now I can get rid of it. There we go. Yeah, superior. Each one of these tabs is taking over 3 gigabytes of RAM. So it's a good thing I've got 32 gig of RAM to be able to do both of these and show you this live on stream all from one machine. Because, oh boy. Let's solo this now and make sure that yeah, the snare reverb is going, because that's important. I don't think any of the reverbs have changed. Oh, no, this one has. The snare reverb has been changed. The snare reverb now has some pre-delay. A good, 16 milliseconds of pre-delay. Everything else, just going to copy this effects from this tab to that tab. Everything else should be exactly the same, so I'm just pasting that behind my head where you can't see it, unfortunately. But yeah, there's just a bit of pre-delay on the snare reverb now, which made it sound clearer. So let's just listen to this with the mastering chain and the drums in. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's sounding quite good. And it should, but it's all about the balance at this point. So next thing I'm going to do is bring in the bass group from here. And just, I think I've changed a couple of things, but I can't. Oh yes, the BX console, of course. So I've got 4 plugins in total on the bass. Let's have a look on here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total, and very different setup. So originally I had an EQ like that, which I've just replaced because I already had the SSL. Don't need these 2 channels, they can go, thank you. And I don't need the audio that's there. Yeah, so I had a dip here at 2K and a push at 8K, but seeing as though I put the Brainworks SSL console on, I just found 2K and made the dip, found 8K and made the push with the bell. And it just sounds a little bit nicer with the SSL style EQ. It just appeals to my ear a little more. So let's grab all of these and make sure that that's on and move everything up. There we go. So I can see that the automation... Oh, the automation has moved with the items. Fantastic. Right, so they can go. And let's bring in the bass with the drums. Okay, that sounds a little more distorted than you might expect at first, but once that wall of guitars takes over, that should make more sense. Now, clean guitars. I don't think I changed much with the clean guitars. I didn't really need to. So that might be a case of... Oh yeah, so it has BX console, of course. So that was just one guitar straight up. So what I'm going to do is just copy the group over. Make sure it's not inside that group, because that could be catastrophic. Oops. And let's just delete these out of there and hide the mixer for a minute. Oh dear. One of the guys in chat, one of my regulars, made Prometheus, saying he talks to a jazz pianist who doesn't speak English with a translator. That sounds like a recipe for disaster. Actually sounds quite hilarious, but yeah, so the clean guitar's going from this... Also, it looks like literally the only change on the clean guitar so far is that I've put the BX console on there and nothing else. Right, this is where it gets interesting, because the rhythm guitars, I've done a lot of changes, but I might just... No, I'll plow through. So the first part of this mix tutorial honestly isn't going to be the most interesting, but you're actually seeing it all in action. Ooh. So the rhythm group is going to come over and just straight up copy paste. What just happened? I want to copy the rhythm group and I want to put them down here. This is going to take a second. There it is, and I didn't want to put them in that. So the old ones at the top, the new ones at the bottom. Let's delete all the noises out of it. And leave the volume of that. I can see some automation on there, so I'm going to remove that. Is there any automation on there? There is. Okay. So I'm going to delete these two channels and I'm going to look at the mixing. So there's regates and polar designers. This is going to take a little while because I need to do this. It's a bit like knitting. So the DIs need to go in there and the original tracks need to go because that keeps the processing then. Which of course, like I said, will need to be changed. But things like Austrian Audio's Polar Designer is not needed on these particular new channels just because I happen to know that I didn't use the Austrian Audio Designer. The Austrian Audio Polar Designer. So, yeah, because I didn't use the 818 on this particular track. Greater mic as it is, I was specifically demoing the Lewitt 640 Rex. So, there we go. I can now get rid of the old rhythm group. Now let's see how this sounds. Oh, that's got a lot of low end in it. There we go. There's a good first lesson with something like guitars. I've done a high pass filter here that's gone all the way up to 260 hertz. Don't be afraid of the numbers. Don't think you're doing it wrong because the number doesn't say what you expect. Often analog filters don't quite work as aggressively as you would think. If I was using like a 24 dB per octave digital filter, I'd probably have that down more like 160 hertz. But there's a lot of low end in these particular rhythm guitars that I just want to get rid of. As much as it sounded nice coming out the microphones, there we go, and I just took the low pass up from about 8K to about 12K. And Rhythm Guitar 1 didn't have quite as aggressive a low end, so that doesn't need quite as aggressive a filter. Whereas it did, to my ear at least, warrant, a bit more of the ultra top end coming back. Let's see how these two fit together now. That's sounding pretty beefy. And let's mix that with the drums and bass and see what sort of level we're getting. Brilliant. So I can hear there was a couple of resonant peaks. Most of the resonant peaks were in the other guitar though, so let's have a listen. Oh. Bass. I'm just going to reset everything on this EQ. There we go. And yeah, make sure it's before my nice console. I can hear some real whistling in this particular guitar, so I'm just going to make sure that it's all filtered out. I don't need to do the top and bottom filters on this because just after this is the SSL, which is doing that on these two knobs here. So what I need is to just look through for resonances and find them and get rid of them. Let's just see if this this gate could be tighter, because that should be going ja 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 ja, and instead it's going jabba 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 jabba. There we go. So by taking the low end out of the gate, I'm just going to copy that across now and taking the threshold up a little. Hopefully we don't kind of pay for this too much in terms of the gate being really choppy. But let's just listen to this now in context of the whole guitar. Yeah, now hopefully, yeah, like I say, if that doesn't cause any chattering or anything anywhere in the rest of the track, then that's sorted a problem. Yeah, I think that's sorted that. So now that I've took the whistles out of the guitars, let's turn off the lead and the vocals for a little while. Just while we listen to what we already have and build it up. Let's have a listen. Oh, it's the right, yeah, it's the clean guitars, the one that's making the that extra noise right now. There's something about this guitar that's just a little bit lower down, just cutting in my ears. There it is, kind of a low mid thing, 200-ish hertz. It turns. Beer Hounds beer reviews. Cheers! I'm not drinking a beer, I'm drinking an old fashioned, but hey, cheers. I'm sure I've made that identical joke. Starting to get a little Groundhog Day-ish. For everybody who's tuned in, if you are a patron of the channel, or if you would like to be a patron of the channel through Patreon, I'm sure we can get a link into the description. I have just released, I usually release videos a week early. I have just released 14 videos early. I just had kind of a fit of madness and thought, you know what, I'm just going to get everything out there. So if anyone's interested in everything we did from 42 Gear Street and stuff with Zilla Cabs and Arturia and even more than that, it's all out on patreon.com/HopPoleStudios. And if you sign up to support us for a monthly, it's $1 a month, then you get to see all of it. Interesting that as soon as I said that, the number of viewers went down by a significant amount, but hey, gotta let everybody know. So, moving on. Lead guitar. This one's going to be a little more interesting. Let's. What did I change on the lead guitars? It's mostly EQ moves and changing the EQ types. Oh, so yeah. So this one's got quite a list. Thank you for the link there, Marty. Yeah. So this has got the. Oh no, that's the Shout group. We've got an EQ, whoa, quite an extreme EQ on the lead, followed by only a distressor now. Then a good bit of work on the BX console and Soothe 2 as well. So I'm going to copy this, and this needs a little bit of small room and plate, which I will drop in there at my earliest opportunity. But they probably won't have changed. So yeah, let's just copy them across. And like we did before. Developing mix level hearing discrimination is like learning to coordinate your toes. Yes, yeah, there is a lot of that goes on. It does make you cross-eyed trying to listen for differences. Oh, just wait. When you can hear EQ moves, that's one thing, but wait till you can hear phase discrepancy when you've used too many EQs on the same channel, and you can actually hear the phase difference and the phase combing that's been introduced. It's messy. It makes you makes your ears hurt. Right, so in theory at least, thanks to the latest versions of Reaper, if I copy all the items, I'll make sure I'm snapped to a bar. If I move all these items up, any automation that is on the volumes and pans and such should be kept. Oh, actually, no. I need to put these in specifically because there are extra channels. There we go. So let's drop them in there. And so let's just, can I copy an entire envelope? Copy long if you feel like a room without a roof. And where's lead one's pan? See if I can paste in there. Yep, looks like that's copy pasted in the perfect place. And it looks like we've done some volume automation here as well. So if I copy the volume automation from the lead, guitar full stop up to here. Then we should be good. I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Oh, blimey. At least I'm able to do that in the comfort of my own home. Oh. And that Pascal guitar solo, that can go. Right, so we're starting to get a slightly cleaner look at our tracks now. Woof. Right, so this is gonna need some work. That can go, that can go, that can go, that can go, that can go. And then let's try and recreate that roughly in the Brainworks SSL, but also with a compressor now. Okay, the reap of course would be up. I went through and did some very clever link shortenings. That's hotpole.co/reaper. There we go. That, if I go http:// there we go. That's a link to our Ultimate Reaper course. How clever is that? Yes. And just to check that works. Yes, it does. Fantastic. There we go. So if anyone's interested in mixing specifically in Reaper, everything's going mad on the phone again, but tough. Let's listen to this bit more. I do hear a bit of a low mid thing in here that I don't like. There we go. That's going to need some volume boosting, and there's going to be a lot more to go with. Ooh, I can hear some noise going there, but it's probably not enough to ruin a mix. Okay. And then I've got later on... I am going to go in and quickly just nudge everything around, because this is something that happens so often when people record things at home. Is that one thing you have to watch out for with USB recording devices is their latency is quite high. You naturally will play a little bit ahead of the beat to try and compensate, and you think you've got it, and then when you're done, the computer then adjusts it from where you've adapted, so you've been playing ahead to get on the beat in your ears, and then it moves it to where it actually was, so you're actually out. There you go. So I moved all those stabs back by some number of milliseconds just to what looked like it was on the bar, and tested it to make sure it was right before I moved on. And it was right. So, hey, that deserves another little drink of the old-fashioned. Whoa, that is strong. I definitely don't want to be drinking those quickly. Now, that's most of the material for this song. I've still got the vocals and shouts and such that I need. So let's have a look at the vocal group. So it looks like the vocal group's fairly dry. Let's just copy this over to here. Something I will have to do on these mixes possibly is the Melodyne, and I found that auto-tune was a real culprit for crashing the system. It's an older version that I have, auto-tune EFX3. And you can see from this ARA analysis that's come up, that's the Melodyne loading in for the song. We don't need that, and that's fine. So I'm immediately just going to get rid of Melodyne there. Bad interfaces make waveform identification a must. Yeah, you need to. Yeah, you learn to look at it a bit like the Matrix after a while. So what do I have? So Chipmunk vocals, the old Chipmunk vocals. Auto-tune effects can go. So again with snap on. Get rid of the actual vocals, unlock them. Because I froze them down. There we go. Now, lead vocals, alternatives, and chipmunks. Chipmunks. Let's do this with the snap-on and some waveform identification. Hello to Poo Ninja in chat, by the way. Okay. So that seems really quiet. Vocal group automated up to full unity. There we go. Okay, so it looks like we don't need these two. That's great. And it looks like we don't need any of these either. Off you go. So we're getting closer. Let's just copy the backing and the shout groups at the same time. And just make sure, get rid of all that, that these are good. So shout group, oh, I don't need that or that, but I do need all three of these. Now I will need to look quickly at the effects sends of these as I'm doing this, but the audio knitting is nearly complete. So I do remember that the backing vocals originally had a plate send on them, and so did the shout. So they can now go away. And hit save. And if I've done this right, and that's the big if, oh, I'll just delete that as well. Then I should have, 73 tracks of thrills and spills. And if I take the time to get rid of all of this time before time, then we should have 3 songs arguably ready to mix now after the first hour. And they all sounded pretty good to begin with, so let's just listen through the song 16 and see what needs doing. Right, so there's that 3K push is not nice. So I'm going to take that down and I'm going to push the entire volume of everything and see if that fixes it. Hello, Al. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Right, so that's sounding better, but one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a send to our 8th note delay and see if that sounds nice. It's going to be too much to begin with. There we go. So that's our 8th note delay. Soloed. It's our typical tape delay from Echo Boy. And it just adds a certain space to that otherwise incredibly dry mono lead. But I'm going to have to now automate that to be on and off when I don't want it. And hello to David Morris. That's something I've just noticed, is that the two vocals that I have here, one is a lot hotter track than the other, so I'm going to bring the other one up to match, because it looks like the others might have been driven into some kind of limiter and this one hasn't. So I'm going to make this louder to hit the compressors harder. That's a good 7 dB more. We're not going to hear 7 dB more of level, but we will hear a more compressed, more smoothed out vocal. Cool. That lead guitar now, when it's in stereo, comes in and feels like it's way too loud, so that's coming down a bit. Something is breaking the gate and going here. It's the lead, so I'll take the snap off and see how this copes now. Right, so that delay needs to come down a bit on these two lead guitars a bit, because it's taking over now. There is shouts here. That shout is what I can hear. It's just unruly. It's cool, it's adding energy, but it's just too much. There's another section where it seems like the interface has pushed everybody early. So I'm just gonna, that jug, 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 jug. I'm just gonna push that back, and it also, there's nothing going on the guitar there, so that can go back. But yeah, I can actually actively see through the red where all these chug, 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 chugs are before the bar. So I'm gonna push them back. And then what I do is just pull the start of it back a little so there's some crossover, so there's no audible gap. Oh no. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to automate off all the gates. All 12 of them. I wonder if I can just copy this lane. Copy points. No, I have to turn it on. That's going to take me a little while. Right, so yeah, I'm going to have to do this. Because I've got gates on every microphone, and I probably should honestly have done that on the total guitar, but the way it's routed, that would make it very, very difficult, I think. Let's just check something, actually. Let's just find that section earlier in the song where it went chug, 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 chug. There was a very definitive there, that section. Let's just see. I'm going to turn off all these gates and just move one up. And then just send one of these DIs out to 3 and 4 there. Well, what do you know? I can do that on the bus, on the folder. I didn't know I could do that safely, but apparently I can. So, yeah, what do you know? Right, well, bear with me a second. This is how I learn stuff quite often, is I have a crazy idea and I try it out, and if it works, then I keep doing it. So I can get rid of all these lots and lots and lots of sends, and I can send from just one of the DIs. So I'll just let one of the DIs be the gate, usually the left one, because generally in my thinking, if something's single tracked, I will have put it on the left side and pan the left in. If it's double tracked, it will be left and right, so there will always be a left channel if there's a signal, the way that my mind tends to work. It's just because of track ordering, you just goes left then right. That's just that's the way I tend to work. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Because more importantly, that means I can now automate. I can now automate 2 gates instead of 6. which is far more, far more efficient. So, I mean, that probably took me as long to work this out as it would have to just automate 6 gates. But doing it this way means if in future I need to automate any of the gates, it's 2 rather than 6. And I learned something. See, that's gonna go. So I'm just gonna cut those, fade all those, cut those, and fade all those too. And then make sure afterwards that I automate those gates back on for the next song. It's good to have gates on guitars that are automatable, because that way if I do want a track to sustain and go on, I can very quickly turn off those gates on command, which if I was doing that with a pedal board, I would just have a gate either not on that channel at all or on some kind of switch. And yeah. Rafael Dantas, great class, learning so many things. Well, anytime. That's kind of why I do this on stream. I mean, this is all work I have to do anyway, but I may as well show people what I'm doing as I do it. Now, here's where it's going to get interesting. I'm going to now play the next song, because this is 3 songs in the same same album, as it were. Because, like I said, I'm thinking analog style. I'm thinking not like copy-paste necessarily in terms of settings, but in the way that with a rock band, generally, traditionally at least, you would finish recording one song, you'd put a new tape on the tape machine, you wouldn't really touch anything else. If you needed to change an amp for an amp sound, you'd do that. If you had an extra element you would like to add for that song, you would do that as well. But the general settings, you wouldn't spend any time changing it all, because that's a waste of resources and would get away from consistency. So let's listen to this song berate and see what sounds out of place, what needs changing, what's not right. Oh. Do I have the new Reaper where I can add effects into the mix and track? Yes, I can, but I won't, because most of the ones that support that are Reaper's inbuilt plugins, and most of the plugins that I'm using are not Reaper's inbuilt plugins. So yeah, it's a cool feature, but yeah, it doesn't work for me. So it's there for other people. Now, this second guitar, it sounds like this really has an EQ spike. Right, so there's already a few problems I've come up against. The EQ on this particular guitar looks like it's not working. There's something very specifically grindy in this tone. Right, so this first guitar, guitar 1 on this song, is not big block chords like it was on the first, which means that I'll probably need to push the volume on it by a couple of dB to make it cut the same because it's single notes. Also, I can hear that all of those, that whole thing there was a little bit early, so let's just push it back. Okay, so that's not sounding bad now, but those 2 EQ points that I have added to re-EQ, what I'm going to have to do now is go in, let's see what they were called, 0.5 and 0.6. Ooh, that's a big lump there on the EQ. That's a difficult looking EQ, but luckily this is a really good EQ in terms of not creating too many phasing artifacts. What I need to do is, yeah, there we go, open up the trim and find filter. Up to filter 5 is automatable. Let's get filter 5 and filter 5 gain. Actually, you know what? Let's just make this simple on myself. Get a second copy of re-EQ in here and just turn these off, but just copy their settings. So I need a band at 2.83k. That was Q 7.54. And minus 8.4. Close enough. And the other one was 1.99k. See you later, Al. 1.99k. Q 5.26. So basically 2k on the nose. Down a little, up a little. That's close enough. And minus 3.3. And the reason I've done it as a separate EQ with the others disabled is that it's so much easier to just get this second EQ and just turn the whole thing on and off. So re-EQ, second one, bypass. There we go. So I can just have the whole thing bypassed for the previous song because it didn't need it in the previous song. And now let's go over to our sports correspondent, Mr. Solo. Take it down because I know it was too loud. Hope that's right, and if not, tweak it.
Konzentrieren. Heute kratzt uns gar nichts mehr. Jetzt zieht euch aus und kommt mal her. Gleich ist ja auch schon Mitternacht. Wir haben uns für euch schick gemacht. Ey, jetzt ist Schluss mit nichts.
That whole vocal, all of this is way ahead of the beat, so I'm just going to push it back.
Hemmungslos voll motivieren. Stehen wir hier konzentrieren. Heute kratzt uns gar nichts mehr. Ey, zieht euch aus und kommt mal her. Gleich ist ja auch schon Mitternacht. Wir haben uns für euch schick gemacht, ey.
The bass line's all ahead as well, so I'm just going to push that back. Because the drums are perfectly on. So let's just go back to where I was.
Hemmungslos voll motivieren, stehen wir hier konzentrieren. Heute kratzt uns gar nichts mehr. Ey, zieht euch aus und kommt mal her. Gleich ist ja auch schon Mitternacht. Wir haben uns für euch schick gemacht, ey. Jetzt ist Schluss mit Riesenstehen. Jetzt ist Zeit, um durchzudrehen. Leute, seid ihr bereit? Für 3 Minuten Zärtlichkeit. Leute, seid ihr bereit?
Okay, so which one's the high vocal?
Leute, seid ihr bereit? Für 3 Minuten Zärtlichkeit. Für ein Tänzchen mit dem Nachbarmann. Ey, aufgepasst, jetzt seid ihr dran. Passt, jetzt seid ihr dran.
Okay, so those all seem early.
Aufgepasst, jetzt seid ihr dran.
And they probably don't want that to be early because it sounds messy.
Ey, aufgepasst, jetzt seid ihr dran.
Let's just make sure this all goes bang, bang, bang.
Ey, aufgepasst, jetzt seid ihr dran. Dran. Ein Tänzchen mit dem Nachbarmann. Ey, aufgepasst, jetzt seid ihr dran.
Right, so those missing tambourine. Yes, so they did say about a tambourine, so what I'm gonna do is see if there is. There will be a tambourine in here somewhere. Let's see, how do I add a new drum? That's the question. Add instrument. Search for instrument. Percussion. Tambourine. That one. Route close mics to existing channels. Now, where are you going? Mixer. Tambourine. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man. Subadoo-badoo. Broom? That might do it. Ah, Java. Right. I was gonna say I don't I don't have slow loading on. Let's try the overheads. I don't have slow loading on. That's it. Now what keys that on a MIDI monitor? How do I know what that's supposed to be? What? Oh, MIDI mapping. Oh, 127. Let's just have a look. Is there anything on this entire performance that uses B-1? No, there isn't. B-1, so I'm just going to move that all the way down to B-1. Because this part was apparently supposed to have a tambourine. So it's a 15. And I'm gonna... Oh, that's lucky that nobody's actually using that key. Thought it was using B-1. I'm actually using E flat.
Ja, dein T-Shirt nass bis auf die Haut. Heute wird's so richtig laut. Kippe aus die Becher.
Why on earth? Why would that be doing that to notes I have not selected? What's wrong with this thing?
Ja, dein T-Shirt.
Oh, hit variation, randomize, yes, please.
Ja, dein T-Shirt nass bis auf die Haut. Heute wird's so richtig laut. Kippe aus, die Becher leer. Wir sagen euch, da geht noch mehr. Die Masse tobt hier durch den Saal. Gibt kein Preis, kein Tanzpokal. Ey, scheiß auf Aussehen, scheiß auf Ehre. Werft eure Hände in die Atmosphäre. Nass bis auf die Haut. Heute wird's so richtig. Nass bis auf die Haut. Heute wird's so richtig laut. Kippe auf.
Okay. Looks like they've tried to be all clever here with the velocity of the snare, and it's doesn't sound even at all.
Dein T-Shirt nass bis auf die Haut. Heute wird's so richtig laut. Kippe aus, die Becher leer. Wir sagen euch, da geht noch mehr. Die Masse tobt hier durch den Saal.
Okay, that shout was a bit much. That shout was a little bit like someone coming out to war, so let's take that down a little.
Sagen euch, da geht noch mehr. Die Masse tobt hier durch. Euch, da geht noch mehr. Die Masse tobt.
There we go. And what's that supposed to be? This is what I was talking about, actually, just by coincidence. earlier when I was talking about bypassing the gate for little sections, this is a really good example where I'm going to need that gate when it goes to the ba ba da ba, but I need it to not be on here because it's causing chattering problems. And right, I think that's another example of where I need to open the gates. Open the gates! Because something in here is going duduk. And it's not me. Let's just open up the gates there and see about that. Right. Just make sure all the delay tails are caught in there. And let's listen from the start of the song. Just move them down one. Did hear a couple of gate chops in there, so there was that burnt, and no quote-unquote clean guitars in this one, so it must be guitar 1 that's doing that. Right, so that needs no gate there, specifically to let that through. and then instantly needs gating. Right, so that bass part was all ahead, and it was really pushing the beat in an uncomfortable way. So I've just pushed that back.
Ja, dein T-Shirt nass bis auf die Haut. Heute wird's so richtig laut. Kippe aus, die Becher leer. Wir sagen euch, da geht noch mehr. Die Masse tobt hier durch den Saal. Gibt's kein Preis, kein Tanzpokal. Ey, scheiß auf Aussehen, scheiß auf Ehre. Werft eure Hände in die Atmosphäre.
Right, that whole lead part was pushed as well, so let's push that back to give it a nice classy feel. Right, I like that laugh, but I don't want it to be too loud to begin with, so I'm going to automate it up. Alright, I think that one's done. Let's move on to the last one, Good Gemeint. And hope that all our automation is intact and we've not done anything stupid, because that's entirely possible. Let's have a listen. From wherever the actual start is.
Ja, manchmal fühle ich mich doch.
Right, it actually sounds like the drums are ahead of everything. So, sorry, the drums are behind everything. It makes everything sound ahead. So I'm just going to drag everything back by the same amount apart from the drums. See if that just magically fixes everything.
Ja, manchmal fühle ich mich doch wieder wie ein Kind, das beschützt wird vom selber denken. Fehler machen, glaubt ihr, ich bin blind? Das entscheiden wir für dich, haben sie immer gesagt. Und jetzt steh endlich mal auf eigenen Beinen, heißt es heute. Wer hat hier, bin blind?
was that off half the time? Yeah. So I'm gonna need my my defeater. So I'm gonna turn the gate on there. I think the gate stayed for the second guitar.
Fehler machen, glaubt ihr, ich bin blind? Das entscheiden wir für dich, haben sie immer gesagt. Und jetzt steh endlich mal auf eigenen Beinen, heißt es heute. Wer hat hier versagt? Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung, nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab das damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht, gefeit. Wer ist mein Freund? Wer ist mein Feind? Ja, das Ergebnis, wie es scheint. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint. Der rote Faden wie die Laufmasche. Der rote Faden.
I can hear where they've edited the guitars.
Wie die Laufmasche.
No, that's actually where the first guitar just stops.
Der rote Faden wie die Laufmasche im Leben. Fehler erkannt, beseitigt, klargekommen. Und wollt ab jetzt an alles geben. Doch für diesen Leben war ich dann viel zu alt. Erst haben sie mich hingehalten und dann schnell die Türen zugeknallt. Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung, nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab das damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht, gefeit. Wer ist mein Freund und wer ist mein Feind? Ja, das Ergebnis, wie es scheint. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint.
Right, I really like the idea of this guitar. So this one I am going to push up in the mix, and that third guitar I'm probably going to push that down in the mix for this section, because I am a sucker for that pop punky dung ding ding kind of thing. So this is going to get a good couple of dB boost, and this one I'm pretty sure that guitar is actually mono. I'm just going to turn all the effects off on it. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to nudge one of them back by a few milliseconds, and that'll give me a bit of a spread. Not ideal, but I'll then take the whole thing down in the mix, because this doesn't need to be a loud guitar. This isn't... That's not a lead at all, that's just a second rhythm. Right, so there's a cleanish section here, and then there's a heavy section. I really want the heavy section to have more impact, so I'm going to take that heavy guitar down significantly. Probably more than you would think it should go down, but I'm going to bring the clean guitar up significantly so it really starts to shine. And then as the clean guitar drops out, the heavy guitar and the other layer will go back. Yes, Eric Crawford in chat. I'm not sure what you're trying to say with some of these comments, but this is a mixing stream about mixing. It doesn't matter who these people are, where they're from, what language they speak. I am mixing music, and I'm making it sound like the best music that I can. I've worked with people from all around the world in all sorts of different languages, and it does not matter to me. If I can make something sound good, I will make it sound good. That is my modus operandi. That is what I do. And what I'm getting paid for what I do may well be none of anybody else's business. If anybody has any mixing related comments or questions in the chat, please feel free. Now let's listen through this song all the way through. I think there are a couple of bits that stuck out, maybe a couple of kind of mid peaks, a couple of vocals that needed the volume automating a little. There was a couple of big wah bits that I might stick the quarter note delay on an automation lane and just add a little bit in at appropriate points on those big notes just to give them an extra soaring quality. Let's see what happens if I put a slight fade on those so we don't get that click. Might have to bypass the gate just for a split second there because the gate's attack is giving us that slight click. I'll do the same here to let those guitars fade in.
Ja, manchmal fühle ich mich doch.
Okay, just take those hi-hats down a little. UK punk is meaningless now. UK punk has been meaningless since about 1979. It's just music.
Ja, manchmal fühle ich mich doch wieder wie ein Kind, das beschützt wird vom selber denken. Fehler machen, glaubt ihr, ich bin blind? Das entscheiden wir für dich, haben sie immer gesagt. Und jetzt steh endlich mal auf eigenen Beinen, heißt es heute. Wer hat hier versagt? Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung, nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab das damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht, gefeit. Wer ist mein Freund und wer ist mein Feind? Ja, das Ergebnis, wie es scheint. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint. Der rote Faden wie die Laufmasche im Leben. Fehler erkannt, beseitigt, klargekommen. Und wollte ab jetzt dann alles geben. Doch für diesen Lebensweg war ich dann viel zu alt. Erst haben sie mich hingehalten und dann schnell die Türen zugeknallt. Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung, nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab das damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht, gefeit. Wer ist mein Freund und wer ist mein Feind? Ja, das Ergebnis, wie es scheint. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint.
I've been automating the volume there on just one side of this guitar because I'm a wally. Let's try automating the volume on this entire guitar so we don't have loads and loads of low end in our right ear.
Gut gemeint.
Hello, Nick.
Seit Hunderten von Jahren geht mal was vor die Wand. Wir haben das schon verstanden und ich glaub, ihr habt's auch erkannt. Und ich reiß trotzdem jetzt den Kopf hoch. Ich habe einen Plan. Ich such mir ein Ziel am Horizont und das greife ich jetzt an. Hey, hallo! Was mir im Weg ist, reiß ich ein. Hallo! Wo ich bin, will ich sein. Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung, nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab es damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht, gefeind. Wer ist mein Freund und wer ist mein Feind? Ja, das Ergebnis, wie es scheint. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint. Ich hab es damals schon erkannt. Schlechter, gut gemeint.
Right, so that's too loud.
Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung. Schlechter, gut gemeint. Ich hab's damals schon erkannt.
There we go. It doesn't need much chopping off the top there. And just chopping a little off the top. And that's the other thing I was going to do, is look at the vocal group, see if there's any delay anywhere. There isn't. So I'm going to add a send to our quarter note delay. And this is going to sound ridiculous at first because it's at full blast.
Schlechter, gut
If you have to ask what DAW I'm using, then you are not familiar with my work. This is Reaper, and I am Adam Steele, and I am kind of the Reaper guy. Reaper is brilliant, and I use it a lot.
Schlechter, gut gemeint. Ich hab's schlechter, gut gemeint.
Okay, there we go. So I want to automate the mute of that send to the delay, because I don't want that at all, ever, apart from this tiny little bit of this one song.
Schlechter, gut gemeint. Ich hab's damals schon erkannt. Schlechter, gut gemeint.
Cool. This one came together, and I think that might be our lot. I think it's time to listen to these 3 songs and just flick back to Punk Rock im Sommer quickly and just check that these sound similar.
Endlich angekommen, hab die Kämpfe mitgenommen. Doch ich heute ist mein Feind. Ja, das Ergebnis, wie es scheint. Schlechter. Endlich angekommen, hab die Kämpfe mitgenommen.
Ah,
Doch
that's what happens when you try and work across 2 entire project tabs.
heute
Right, so the guitars on these tracks are actually a little bit less aggressive by the sound of it than they were on Punk Rock in Summer, from the fact that I use different microphones and such. So I'm just going to compensate with a tiny little bit of a high shelf on this Neve group from Brainworks that's on the entire rhythm guitar group, just with a bit, but nothing crazy. And hopefully that'll fix that. Yeah, it does look like nice graphics on this. It's not a classic Neve desk. I believe it's the Neve 88 desk, which is a slightly newer Neve design. Which, well, they look like that. But obviously stretched out into a console setting. This is the only Neve console strip that I have in my entire project here, because this is the first time I'm trying a lot of the Brainworks stuff, and my dream mixing desk to mix on would be an SSL 4000E series, so that's what I went with across most of the channels. And then on the guitar group, I know that Neves work well with heavy guitars, so I went with that over the guitar group because I could. And that's about it. Let's see how that sounds now on the other songs. There we go. Mr. Spanner. Oh, you mean my mod? Well, if you're asking how can I make cash from this industry, the fact that you put the industry in quote marks worries me a little. There are multiple industries all tied together. Investigate, read up, practice, do things, decide what it is that you want to do, get good at it. That's the way you make money in these industries, multiple. There is no easy way to make money in the music industry. If there was, everybody would be doing it. What are you good at? Go and do that. It's as simple as that. It is Superior Drummer. It's Superior Drummer 3. And it's really, really, really good. It sounds shockingly realistic. And yes, I know before anyone says that a lot of these levels are way in the red. That is a strange consequence of the way that I ended up working on this project and playing about with different plugins and all that kind of thing. I wouldn't recommend doing that. But yeah, I'm really happy with these sounds. And yes, if Chris and anybody else missed the start of this stream, I completely redid the other song, Punk Rock in Summer. I now have the Plugin Alliance mixing and mastering bundle. So I'm using the Shadow Hills Class A mastering compressor, the Bettermaker EQ 232D, which is like a Pultec on steroids, Brainworks Master Desk. That's the entire mastering chain, by the way. That's it. Done. I'm using the Brainworks SSL console on everything. In point of order, I've removed a lot of plugins that were doing separate jobs and have consolidated them into the Brainworks console, which actually emulates different channels for every instance. It sounds like a very, very slightly different channel, so you don't get that build up that you get of static frequencies. So yeah, I think it's time to have a listen through. I've only been doing this 2 hours. I thought I'd be doing this for longer, to be honest, but let's have a listen through. Thought those sounded a bit weird. There's hi-hat snaps, but it's because the velocities are 127. It doesn't sound like a real hi-hat snap. You wouldn't smash a hi-hat that hard just to close it a split second later. You'd hit it probably more like 100-ish. So you'd go, you wouldn't smack it. Plus, it sounds like the snap's almost superhumanly quick. Nobody does that.
So was die Schule oder Arbeit, ich kannte
think I want a bit more of this shouty track, but I don't want it to sound like it's in a cave. So I'm going to take the plate reverb down on it a significant amount. Nice. Well, something that is quite interesting is that all three of these songs, all of the guitars, are the Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200. And they sound really, really good.
Heute kratzt uns gar nichts mehr. Ey, zieht euch aus und kommt mal her. Gleich ist ja auch schon Mitternacht. Wir haben uns für euch schick gemacht. Ey, jetzt ist Schluss mit Riesenstehen. Jetzt ist Zeit, um durchzudrehen.
Right, I think this little section of guitar here is a little too on the nose when it comes back in. It would be fine where it is, but we're doing fine tuning now. So what I'm gonna do is take it down a little, because this gap gives your ear a break.
Heute kratzt uns gar nichts mehr. Ey, zieht euch aus und kommt mal her. Gleich ist ja auch schon Mitternacht. Wir haben uns für euch schick gemacht. Ey, jetzt ist Schluss mit Riesenstehen. Jetzt ist Zeit, um durchzudrehen.
I think I might just add a little bit of mid to the bass. So the bass is using a plugin called Mammoth, and I've been using this for a while now, and it's really quite impressive. Oh yeah, that's automated. And yeah, I've got a video coming out about it tomorrow, and it's really, really good. It does the low end separate from the top end, so you get clear low end and gritty top end, and it's $40, I think it is. I think it's $49 full price, but as of tomorrow, when my video comes out, I'm going to have a 20% off code on there if you want to get that. It is a sponsored video, but I won't get paid any more if you buy the plugin or not. So that's not, yeah, but honestly, I use it everywhere now because it's great.
Ja, dein T-Shirt nass bis auf die Haut. Heute wird's so richtig laut. Kippe aus, die Becher leer. Wir sagen euch, da geht noch mehr. Die Masse tobt hier durch den Saal.
I'm just gonna, for this song, take down what they call the mammoth gain.
Ja, dein T-Shirt nass bis auf die Haut. Heute wird's so richtig laut. Kippe aus, die Becher leer. Wir sagen euch, da geht noch mehr. Die Masse tobt hier durch den Saal. Gibt's kein Preis, kein Tanzpokal. Ey, scheiß auf Aussehen, scheiß auf Ehre. Werft eure Hände in die Atmosphäre.
Ah, there's a little flub on the bass there, so I'm going to edit that myself so it goes bam, bam. And they go wobom, wobom, so I'm going to just push them back. Okay, admit it. Who pushed the guitars? There. That one especially, way early. Whoop. Do you do the car test and crappy stereo test? I don't do the crap stereo test, but I do the car test. Not as a routine anymore. I'm relatively confident in my mixes, but I do still do the car test anyway. Not necessarily as a matter of course, but I'm one of those people, I'll do it anyway. Funnily enough, Punk Rock in Summer, the mix that you've heard today, that was part of a car test yesterday. So yes, I do that, much like a lot of engineers do, I'm sure. But yeah, I use it. I know my car stereo fairly well. Don't just get in a car and listen. Like, I know for a fact that the way that the speakers are aligned and the crossover frequencies and everything in my car, I will get the vocals way lower down in my car than they would be on any other setup, because I can listen to any well-mixed professional song in my car and the vocals are lower down. Quite often the midpoint of the guitars is a little lower down as well. Seems to be just where the crossover frequencies are. Guitars do tend to kind of dip down a bit in my car, and kick drums come out very quickly. It's just the way the system's tuned, which means that if it's doing that, I need to not write those down as problems to be fixed. I just need to keep in mind that that's what my system does. And if it's not doing that, maybe it should be doing that. And if it's doing that overbearingly, then I need to correct something, but probably not by as much as I think I would if it was a perfectly flat monitoring system. But generally, it's just a good sanity check for me. let's not do the thing there, because there's some real high frequency on that that's standing out where the guitarist has probably slammed the strings on a slide. That's more like it. Okay, so that's Berate done. And Gut Gemeint, let's listen.
Ja, manchmal fühle ich mich doch wieder wie ein Kind, das beschützt wird vom selber denken. Fehler machen, glaubt ihr, ich bin blind? Das entscheiden wir für dich, haben sie immer gesagt. Und jetzt steh endlich mal auf eigenen Beinen, heißt es heute. Wer hat hier versagt? Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung.
That's a thought. One thing you can't see me doing on camera is I will often lean my hand over to the volume knob for the headphones. I'm currently listening at super low volume, like below speaking volume, because at that point I'm expecting the vocals to be slightly louder than the guitars. But if I turn everything up, suddenly the guitars come up around the vocal, and a lot of it's to do with monitoring levels. It's probably a good advice for Chris, actually, who in chat says the vocals are always really loud in the car. Check your mix really, really quiet, and you will find that when you check on the same headphones or monitors really, really quiet, suddenly truth is revealed to you. And as the truth is revealed to you, you'll probably find that the vocals are really loud, so just turn them down until they're still just louder than everything. Then turn the whole mix up and see if it just feels good, even though the guitars are kind of wrapped around the vocal at that point. Because that's not necessarily a bad thing at level.
Für dich haben sie immer gesagt. Und jetzt steh endlich mal auf eigenen Beinen, heißt es heute. Wer hat hier versagt? Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung. Nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab das damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht, gefeit. Wer ist mein Freund? Wer ist mein Feind? Ja, das Ergebnis, wie es scheint. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint. Der rote Faden wie die Laufmasche im Leben. Fehler erkannt, beseitigt, klargekommen. Und wollte ab jetzt dann alles geben. Doch für diesen Lebensweg war ich dann viel zu alt. Erst haben sie mich hingehalten und dann schnell die Türe zugeknallt. Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung. Nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab das damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht. Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung. Nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche? War das vielleicht?
I thought I could hear a click. It's a vocal kind of sound that's just been shot out of the mix like a cannon. Okay. There we go.
Gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab das damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht, gefeit. Wer ist mein Freund und wer ist mein Feind? Ja, das Ergebnis, wie es scheint. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint.
Sounds like we're about to go into a Metallica sort of super heavy section.
Seit Hunderten von Jahren geht mal was vor die Wand. Wir haben das schon verstanden und ich glaub, ihr habt's auch erkannt. Und ich reiß trotzdem jetzt den Kopf hoch. Ich habe einen Plan. Ich such mir ein Ziel am Horizont und das greife ich jetzt an. Hey, hallo! Was mir im Weg ist, reiß ich ein. Hallo! Wo ich bin, will ich sein. Es war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung, nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab es damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht, gefeind. Wer ist mein Freund und wer ist mein Feind? Ja, das Ergebnis, wie es scheint. Schlecht, schlechter, gut damals schon erkannt. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint.
Okay, so I've just had a look from the email that the band sent me, and there is one thing that I need to look at. And that is the intro section of this song. Up to there, apparently is supposed to have a jet flanger. So let's add something from Sound Toys. What have I got? Jet flanger. I think the one I was looking for probably is Phase Mistress, because Phase Mistress does a lot. And just guitar, let's find. Oh, there it is. Phase Jet 4, you say? That sounds kind of cool. So let's just make sure that's automated to be off all the time, except for that tiny little bit, by using the bypass from Phase Mistress. So, bypass Phase Mistress. So make sure it's bypassed all the time, except for this tiny little bit. Cool, that's sorted now, and it's on the right guitar. I just double checked in the email, and in the bridge section of 16, apparently there's the shouting part. Is there any... Right, okay, so there's reverb already on that. Okay. So what I'm thinking to make this sound bigger, they suggested distorted megaphone type thing, and the way that I like to do that, that's more my kind of speed, is to use Waves J37. This is a tape machine, yes I know, but by using, there's a delay that I can actually add a slap style, and I'm going to unsync everything. And I can drive it quite hard on the input. Turn up the saturation, maybe turn the level input down a little. And unsync the times on these and make sure one's much longer than the other to give a bit of a stereo slap. Now let's just see if that works in context. This is another one of those things where I'll need to can you automate effects levels same as volume? Yeah, you can automate literally anything. So J37, I am automating whether I'm bypassing that or not. But can you see this red line above the pink line? The red line is the amount of reverb that I am sending from this shout vocal group out to a separate send of a reverb track. And yeah, you can do that. I'm doing that all the time. I've got, let's just clean everything up. Yeah, so I can see on the lead guitar where I've got more of the delay on, oh, that probably shouldn't be so high on the rest of the tracks. Huh. Why is that muted?
Hemmungslos voll motivieren, stehen wir hier konzentrieren. Heute kratzt uns Mitternacht.
Let's check all these. Not particularly keen on this lead guitar, it just takes over, so that's to going down a little. Although I don't want to do that. To do it on the group, not on the single guitar, that way I've got more control over it. Right, vocal group, automate. Right, so there's no vocal plate send on the group per se, and oh, and there isn't one on the any of the other vocals either. Right, so that probably should have been in there, but like minus 24. Oh yeah, automation is a massive game changer. The fact that especially in Reaper and probably most other DAWs, you can, like, that is a list of every parameter of every plugin on a track that I can change. And down here is every send, the pan of every send, whether that send is on or off. So I can do huge amounts of changing if I so desire. And you can get really crazy as well. Like, you can start automating automation. Like, you can have an LFO that you set that will automate a parameter. You can actually have the sound from one output. You can have the audio from one track trigger automation on another track. It can get bananas. That's the kind of thing I'll talk about in the Ultimate Reaper course. Which is floating around. There is a link in the description. I think it's actually the last thing I put in there. It's hotpole.co/Reaper. That's one of the things I talk about, is like you can do anything with automation. It's massive. So I wanted a little bit of plate reverb on the vocals all the time, but on this big whoa section, I'm going to have the reverb cranked, and it's going to change it without me having to add an extra plugin or change any settings. I can go from tasteful to lots.
Mein Herz ist wieder 16 und ich hätte dich gern dabei. Doch deine Sachen steigt jetzt ein. Unsere Herzen sind
Right, that is us. Oh. Right, I'm going to leave these tracks playing for you to have a listen. I desperately need to run to the water closet. But I'll be back in 5 minutes. Oh, sorry about that. I'll be back in 5 minutes to play the next track. and we'll listen through all three of these, and we'll listen through Punk Rock in Summer with all these settings, apart from the guitar tone, which is going to be slightly different. And that's that for 4 tracks out of the 7 for Mischwald. So that's some serious productivity right there. On we go. Sounds great. Onward.
Heute kratzt uns gar nichts mehr. Ey, zieht euch aus und kommt mal her. Gleich ist ja auch Mitternacht. Die haben uns für euch schick gemacht, ey. Jetzt ist Schluss mit Riesenstehen. Jetzt ist Zeit, um durchzudrehen. Leute, seid ihr bereit? Für 3 Minuten Zärtlichkeit. Für ein Tänzchen mit dem Nachbarmann. Ey, aufgepasst, jetzt seid ihr dran. Ja, dein T-Shirt nass bis auf die Haut. Heute wird's so richtig laut. Kippe aus, die Becher leer. Wir sagen euch, da geht noch mehr. Die Masse tobt hier durch den Saal. Gibt's kein Preis, kein Tanzpokal. Ey, scheiß auf Aussehen, scheiß auf Ehre. Werft eure Hände in die Atmosphäre.
And last but not least,
Ja, manchmal fühle ich mich doch wieder wie ein Kind, das beschützt
hold up. Something that I meant to do before, but I now can. Is I can automate some big epic delay onto those. Hello! Let's do it.
Am Horizont, das greife ich jetzt an. Hey, hallo! Was mir im Weg ist, reiß ich ein. Hallo! Wo ich bin, will ich sein. Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung, nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab es damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht, gefeit. Wer ist mein Freund und wer ist mein Feind? Ja, das Ergebnis hier ist scheint. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint. Ich hab es damals schon erkannt.
Okay, Andrew Debring could do with a little more 160 hertz on the bass. Apologies, my friend, but I don't take advice like that from a chat on something like YouTube, because between me and you, there is YouTube compression for a start, which can massively change things. Also, I can't trust your monitoring system because I've never heard it. I trust my own monitoring systems, and I'm A/Bing this against the track that I'm happy with.
Endlich angekommen, hab gekämpft und mit. Das greife ich jetzt an. Hey, hallo!
And also, if everybody who's watching the stream gave me advice like that, it would be like those Twitch plays streams where you'll have 1,000 people trying to play the same game of Mario Kart all at once. Yes, I know exactly what you mean, Benj. It's sounds like that philosopher, Immanuel Kant. Yes.
Das greife ich jetzt an. Hey, hallo! Was mir im Weg ist, reiß ich ein. Hallo! Wo ich bin, will ich sein. Das war eine ganz, ganz große Leistung, nur leider voll gegen die Wand. War das vielleicht die falsche Denke? Ich hab es damals schon erkannt. Ich hab gewarnt, geflucht, gefeit. Wer ist mein Freund und wer ist mein Feind? Ja, das Ergebnis hier ist scheint. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint. Ich hab es damals schon erkannt. Schlecht, schlechter, gut gemeint.
Cool. Hello, David on Twitch. If anybody wants to watch us on Twitch, by the way, the audio is better quality on Twitch, although I know I'm not supposed to say that. But those, I'm afraid you've almost missed me there, David, because I'm going to play one last song, which is the newer mix of Punk Rock in Summer, which has all the new Plugin Alliance stuff on, like the Shadow Hills Class A mastering, Bettermaker EQ, Master Desk, and then that's going to be the end of the stream, unfortunately. But everything that I've done here is stuff that I'm now really happy with. I mean, little things like Master Desk has a de-esser in the mastering compressor. Very, very clever. And there's some very, very clever stuff in here. Let's go.
Du ich gerne fair. Scheiß auf den Kilometer, ich komm immer wieder her.
And that was the song Punk Rock in Summer by Mischwald. But I did actually notice that I think the guitars in these newer tracks had more high end, which just needs excuse me. To the even to my ear when I'm not constantly checking, sounds better, but in context is probably a bit overbearing. Yeah. There we go, yeah. Just by taking just a little bit of top end off the rhythm group on these 3 songs, it just was a little too high on that top, which on a lot of systems will come across really and harsh and start to mask the frequencies of things like the vocals. So yeah, that is now sorted. I think I've got some mixes there, so I'll get these exported, get these over to the band, see what they think. Of course, I'll listen in the car, but I sent my final mix of Punk Rock in Summer to the band, which was mix 3, and they loved that. I'm now on mix 10. So, as happens with mix engineers like us, we just have to stop at some point and move on. So, hopefully you've enjoyed this stream. I'm going to go and export these and then go to bed. I've got a video coming out tomorrow about that bass plugin Mammoth. Then Thursday is the podcast with my friend Jamie Humphreys, who is, if you ever watched as a guitarist, ever watched the Lick Library DVDs, or ever read any of the guitarist magazines ever, you've seen Jamie's work. He's played in the Brian May band. He's toured the world with We Will Rock You. He is a full-time Mesa and Ernie Ball artist. He's incredible. So he's going to be on this the podcast Thursday night. So I'll see you in the chat tomorrow, and then I'll see you on the podcast on Thursday. Don't miss it, 8 PM UK time. I'll see you all there. Good night, everyone. Hey, everyone. That might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server. Link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Hot Pole Studios. See you there.